According to the contract, the severance pay is $71.07. Additionally, before you vanish, make sure to tidy up. A murmur swept through the room at that very moment. $71.07, and as per the contract, was a touchy subject. Tension between us dates back 6 months, to when there were suspicions that Mr. Ingram would probably be the second president. There was a specific problem between us at the time. Scott is my name. I'm 59 years old and getting close to my 60th birthday. I started working for this corporation at the age of 22, right out of college, and it has been over 40 years. Time seems to go by more quickly as the years go by. Although my oldest daughter's birth seems like it was yesterday, she will actually be graduating from college and starting her career the next year. I've never considered quitting this organization. I am indebted to Mr. Underwood, the former president, who employed me. I'd always been prepared to sacrifice everything for him. Mr. Underwood continued to lead us from the front lines well into his advanced years. But at the age of 80, indications of cognitive deterioration started to show about 10 years ago. Finally, he made the decision to retire at the age of 90. Both of his children are daughters. His eldest got married, had kids, and was a family woman. The youngest became the head of the San Francisco branch of a company that specializes in international business. Who would take his place then? This topic dominated conversations throughout the office when the cherry blossoms faded and new vegetation bloomed. As he set a pile of papers on my desk, my subordinate Brian remarked, "I've heard that the son of the oldest daughter is the most likely candidate." "I've completed these," he continued. "Brian, you work quickly as usual." I listened to Brian's update while I reviewed the paperwork that had been sent in. I've discovered that her son is roughly my age. At the moment, Brian is 30 years old. It wouldn't be shocking if her son was in the 90s, given that Mr. Underwood is 90 and his oldest daughter is getting close to 60. No one questioned the concept of the oldest son taking over because the youngest daughter is still unmarried and has no children. Everyone probably thought that since he was Mr. Underwood's grandson, everything would be all right. Well done. There is nothing wrong with this document. It looks fantastic. It ought to be prepared for the following action. I put a hand on Brian's shoulder and said, "To be honest, Brian, I don't think I have anything more to teach you." There was a trace of grief in his eyes as he gazed at me. "It's difficult to accept that you'll be leaving soon, even if I'm happy to be trusted with tasks. You have supported me for more than a decade since I joined." "It's quite sentimental," Brian remarked, rubbing his cheek. "I'm so flattered you'd say that," I replied, smiling softly and lowering my forehead. "Or is it possible that you will miss me after I leave?" What a romantic man. I made fun of him, and Brian burst out laughing. "Don't say that, please. I don't really swing that way." The systems department erupted in warm laughter as the other staff members who listened laughed. Then, after 6 months, my birthday is tomorrow. That is to say, I will be formally retiring from this organization tomorrow. I thought that 20 would arrive quickly when I was younger. I too believed that I still had more than 20 years left till I was 60, even after the birth of my eldest daughter. Well, I'm not sure what it is. I feel very emotional, yet I want to send everyone leave smiling. Brian was on the verge of crying when someone interrupted him. "What is the matter with you? Is it truly so hard for you to watch an elderly man like him go? How sentimental." Mr. Ingram had stormed into the systems office and greeted everyone as he always did. Mr. Ingram was this person. He is the grandson of Mr. Underwood, whom Brian used to frequently discuss. Nevertheless, he is now the second-generation president, having succeeded Mr. Underwood. Therefore, he is now known as Mr. Ingram rather than grandson. The atmosphere became gloomy as soon as he entered the office. Unfazed, he chuckled loudly and paid no attention. "I appreciate you working tirelessly until you were 60. For an elderly man, you did fairly well. But really, there's no use in having old people like you around. If society is composed of people under 40, it will function much more efficiently. I could understand his point of view. The younger generation is more adaptable and quicker to pick up new information than we are. For workers who had contributed so much to the business over the years, it was nevertheless a cruel remark. Employees over 40 actually had strained faces, while those under 40 displayed signals of bewilderment and uncertainty about how to respond. It wouldn't feel right to agree directly, but Mr. Ingram would get furious if you didn't say something. Brian was quick on his feet and spoke up at that point. "Please don't say that, Mr. Ingram. Our seniors taught us a great deal when we were new. We are appreciative of that. However, I also heard that our younger team recently scored a significant goal. These days, isn't it all about coexistence?" "Well, is that correct?" Mr. Ingram didn't appear impressed. It must have struck a chord to hear it from someone like Brian, who is his peer in talent. However, Mr. Ingram was able to pinpoint Brian's one vulnerability. "Still, you're a high school grad, right?" "High school grads? Well, people try to prop them up with terms like natural smarts or streetwise. But it's all just pity points. So, you saying that doesn't mean much." "Ahaha, yeah, you're absolutely right." Brian laughed along, though the hurt showed a bit on his face. Another employee quickly changed the subject, unable to watch any longer. In the midst of the conversation, Mr. Ingram suddenly remembered something and walked over to me with a broad smile. Then he held out a thin brown envelope. "Oh, right, I almost forgot. The reason I came here was to congratulate you on your retirement tomorrow. Plus, I'd brought the agreed amount." With that, he tossed a brown envelope labeled severance pay in sloppy handwriting, likely filled with loose change, onto my desk. The coins clinked together with a light, mocking sound. The other employees, unaware of the circumstances, watched with puzzled expressions as I frowned. Mr. Ingram looked thoroughly pleased with himself. The severance pay, as per the contract, is $71.07. And make sure to clean up before you disappear. At that moment, a murmur spread through the room. The words he uttered, $71.07, and as per the contract, revealed the deep rift between us. Half a year ago, around the time there was talk of Mr. Ingram possibly stepping in as the second-generation president, a certain issue had arisen between us. Back in late May, the company sent out a notice about the incoming president. Soon after, I was summoned to the president's office. It was none other than Mr. Ingram himself. We had no prior connection, and I hadn't done anything to merit this, so I went in puzzled. After knocking and hearing his response, I walked in, only to be met with an unexpected sight. Oh, you made it. There was the new president, Mr. Ingram, showing not a hint of a welcoming vibe. When Mr. Underwood was in charge, this office only had the bare essentials, but now it's more like the owner's personal hobby room. The shelves that once held trophies and photos are now lined with anime figurines, and where there were once potted plants, there's now a golf bag. On the president's desk sat a randomly placed Gundam model, and instead of the pleasant aroma of the black coffee Mr. Underwood used to drink, the heavy, greasy smell of snack foods now lingered in the air. I don't mean to criticize, but there's an undeniable sadness in seeing the office bear no trace of the man I once looked up to. There sat the current occupant, Mr. Ingram, reclining in his chair, tapping his index finger rhythmically on the desk. He stared intently at me, then, without breaking eye contact, spoke firmly. "You're an old guy who just doesn't fit our company culture or vision. Do you get it? I'm saying I want you gone." For a moment, I couldn't process what he was saying. I can't believe Mr. Underwood would have left without any handover. In fact, as he got older, he had a highly capable secretary managing everything for him, keeping the company running smoothly. So the fact that I'll be retiring soon. Oh, that's right. That secretary. Normally she would be here, standing beside Mr. Underwood, as she always did. and she's 4 years younger than I am. Where could she be? With that thought, I decided to ask about her. Before I respond to that, may I ask one question? Huh. What is it? Make it quick. The president's secretary. Where is she now? Mr. Ingram responded with a casual, "Yeah, I fired her," as if it was of no importance. Just having an older woman around puts me in a terrible mood. Normally, you'd expect a young one as the president's secretary, right? Eventually, I'll assign one of the cute girls from sales or admin to be my secretary. I was stunned speechless. Does he even know what it means to be a secretary? Indeed, since they are often with the president, a certain level of appearance is expected. Even so, without the skills to match, it means nothing. A presidential secretary isn't a fashion model or a company mascot. Their role is to support the president behind the scenes. Yet this man doesn't care, as long as the secretary's appearance suits him. The secretary who had supported Mr. Underwood was renowned for her competence, and yet he discarded her without a second thought. Just as I stood there in shock, he brought the conversation back on track. The reason I told you, and that old lady you're being fired, is simple. You're in the way. From here on out, this company will be built around us young people. We don't need the older generation. Looking at his cold, indifferent face, I realized there was no point in trying to reason with him. Besides, with her abilities, that secretary will undoubtedly have companies lining up to hire her, so I decided to let it go. Noticing my look of dissatisfaction, Mr. Ingram lightly patted his fist against his palm and continued, "If you're so unhappy, let's make a contract. You're set to retire on your birthday, right? Then I'll give you this as a retirement bonus." He opened his wallet and tossed a few $10 bills and coins onto the desk. Turns out this is all I've got on me. $71.71. Consider yourself lucky you're getting the president's entire fortune. So no complaints. Just retire, and in the meantime, properly hand over your work to the young ones with a bright future ahead. And don't make any fuss. They say you should leave without disturbing the waters, right? That's what I'm asking. It was a flimsy excuse, but looking at his attitude, I had no energy left to argue and decided to accept it. But somehow, rumors spread in an odd direction. Before I knew it, people were calling me the senior who gets to retire with the president's full fortune. Of course, none of the subordinates would dare to call me by such a dishonorable nickname. It's mostly Mr. Ingram's loyalists who refer to me that way. Things I never encountered before started cropping up one after another. Whenever I passed unfamiliar employees in the hallway, they'd pointedly say things like, "Good riddance, huh?" Or, "Well, what do you expect from an old guy?" Naturally, I had no interest in engaging in petty disputes. Even without being told by Mr. Ingram, I'm retiring soon, so I'll just quietly watch over my juniors and subordinates from the sidelines. I believe that sometimes those in leadership need to step back and observe their team from a distance. With retirement just around the corner, their words don't really affect me. Yet, the treatment I've received clearly frustrates Brian, who grumbles, visibly annoyed. The new hires and those aligned with Mr. Ingram have no idea how amazing you are, Scott. They talk like they know something, but they don't. Seriously, is Mr. Ingram really Mr. Underwood's grandson? Calming Brian down, I continued preparing for a smooth transition for my retirement 6 months from now. Don't worry so much. They're the type who can't speak up unless they're in a group. Besides, my subordinates and juniors have my back. I couldn't care less what the newbies say. "Well, maybe so," he replied, "but as your subordinate, I just can't accept it." If a new hire had shown such disrespect to a boss I admired, I'd have probably reacted the same way as Brian. And being in this position now, having a younger colleague stand up for me felt surprisingly good. Those supportive words had a far stronger impact than the baseless accusations I'd been hearing. I felt genuinely grateful for having such good people around me. But since Brian was too worked up to focus on work, I changed the subject. This weekend, my wife and daughter are going on a little hot springs trip. Just the two of them. So I'll be home on pet duty. Hey, Brian, recommend me a place with some good drinks again, will you? Puffing his chest out proudly, he replied, Absolutely. Funny enough, my wife's away too. She's going to a concert. I'll keep you company. Despite our age difference, nearly like father and son, we shared an easy, friendly relationship. It was a bond that went beyond the usual boss-subordinate dynamic. No matter what Mr. Ingram or his followers said, having colleagues like Brian close by made it all easier to brush off. Yet Mr. Ingram never let that deter him. He kept poking his nose into my business, finding ways to interfere, accusing us of overspending, or saying the team was too soft. It was all based on his own biases, clearly, because he didn't like me and thus tried to paint the whole systems department in a bad light. What's the deal with this setup here? Why is this deadline so generous? Labor costs are rising, tighten it up. That's not possible, I firmly declared. Mr. Ingram openly frowned and crossed his arms. Not possible doesn't cut it. Do it. I'm the president, and what I say goes. What kind of dictatorship is this, I wondered. Even so, I maintained my unyielding stance. In truth, the other department heads, sales, administration, development, had all caved under Mr. Ingram's pressure and followed his every instruction. They simply passed the orders down to their subordinates. As a result, employees were burning out, struggling to meet the increased workloads and quality standards. It seemed the administration, under Mr. Ingram's influence, was an exception. But he probably just found a favorite among the female staff. But I wasn't about to comply. It's impossible. I've been doing things this way for nearly 40 years without issues. Piling on more only adds to my team's burden. They're human beings. Forcing extra work on them is out of the question. I won't do it. As I stared him down, he clicked his tongue in frustration and stormed off. One day, after many days like this, Mr. Ingram stopped me in the hallway. After you're gone, I'll be doing some reorganization. We need fresh blood, so I don't want a single trace of you left behind. Wouldn't want your successor burdened by your legacy, right? So sign here. He pulled out a document from his bag, shoving it into my hands. It was a document stating that if I left even a single trace behind, they would file a claim for damages. Of course, it was legally meaningless, but arguing would get me nowhere. With a sigh, I signed the paper. Watching me, Mr. Ingram barely bothered to check it before tucking the document away. Satisfied, he walked off with a smug look on his face. Soon after, Brian caught up to me with a puzzled expression. Hey, did Mr. Ingram seem unusually cheerful just now? I don't know. It feels like the calm before the storm. Do you know what's going on? If I told him I'd been pressured into signing such an absurdly one-sided paper, he'd make a scene, so I brushed it off. And just like that, 6 months passed. I managed to hold my ground, clashing with Mr. Ingram right up until the day before my retirement. He seemed bent on pestering me to the very end. That bit about the severance pay of just over $70 is honestly the least of my concerns. He didn't need to come all the way here to say it, but it's clear he wanted to humiliate me one last time. As I glared at the brown envelope from earlier, Mr. Ingram spoke up, deliberately mocking. What's the matter? Were you really that happy? Well, for someone like you, I suppose $70 must feel like a fortune. Consider the loose change a bonus. Now take it and leave. Your place is at home, not here. I noticed Brian clenching his fists in anger. Other employees, who had initially looked confused, now displayed expressions of mounting outrage. Seeing their reactions, I thought to myself, no matter how tyrannical Mr. Ingram was, no matter how much his followers belittled me, the reputation I'd built over the years wasn't for nothing. Rebellion against Mr. Ingram had been simmering in our department, But this was the final straw. A storm of protest erupted. "Excuse me, but this is too much. You've only been here 6 months, yet you talk as if you know everything. You have no idea what Scott has been through and accomplished." Brian's words sliced through the silence. With his lead, other employees began speaking up in my defense, directing their support toward Mr. Ingram. I never thought I'd have such an amazing boss. Despite my high school education, he treated me no differently from my college-educated peers, teaching me the ropes and showing equal respect to everyone. That's who Scott is. In the systems department, unless it's due to unavoidable reasons like pregnancy, caregiving, or relocation, hardly anyone quits. Doesn't that say something about Scott's character? Everyone nodded in agreement with Brian's heartfelt plea. But Mr. Ingram stopped them all with a raised palm. "If you want to oppose me, then I'll fire you all. It's no problem finding tech staff for the systems department, and I won't miss any of you. This is my domain, so if you can't follow my rules, then leave." As someone already retiring soon, I wasn't concerned, but the others were in a different situation. People like Brian supporting families or single parents juggling childcare and elderly care. They were all at risk. "Mr. Ingram, that's too harsh. You can blame me if you want, but please don't involve my team." Mr. Ingram immediately seized on my words, twisting them. "Oh, and who's going to stop me from doing what I want as president? Can't you understand something as simple as resigning if you have complaints?" Honestly, I always suspected the systems department was full of dead weight. I hadn't heard any such rumors, but it was likely the other department heads, unhappy with my defiance, who told Mr. Ingram just that. My mind, which had remained unshaken despite everything, began to ripple like a stone dropped in a pond. My once serene thoughts stirred within me. Very well then. I'll follow the terms of the contract we made. I erased a certain system I had developed right in front of him. "What? That?" The entire staff, knowing what I had done, gasped in horror. Meanwhile, Mr. Ingram, clueless about what had just occurred, only scowled in confusion. But as he realized the gravity of what I had deleted, his expression changed. "Scott, that was a crucial system. How are we supposed to work without it? Without that, every department, the entire company, will come to a halt." He yelled furiously, his face red with anger. "Scott, what have you done? If there's any damage, I'll demand compensation from you." Did he not realize his own contradiction? I reminded him of the agreement we had signed in the hallway that day. "You signed a contract, didn't you? It stated that if I didn't erase all traces of my presence, I'd be liable for damages. This situation doesn't match up with your own terms or the contract." Explaining the situation to the bewildered employees left them all speechless. Then, keeping my composure, I continued, "Well, I'll be clocking out. Tomorrow's my last day, which is just for farewells anyway, so I won't be doing any work. I'll be officially resigning then." Ignoring Mr. Ingram's attempts to call me back, I left the company. The next day, a tense atmosphere filled the systems department as Mr. Ingram showed up looking bruised and battered. I was as surprised as anyone and asked, "What happened?" Only to hear that he had finally understood the gravity of his actions. After realizing the system I deleted was patented, he'd hit the bottle hard out of despair. Patented? No way. So now, we're stuck if he doesn't approve it, but he deleted it. I mean, sure, I told him to erase everything, but who would have expected it was patented? Listening to his muttering, Brian explained with a shrug. On his way home, he got caught in sudden rain, slipped, and fell into an outdoor garbage bin outside a restaurant. He stormed into the place in anger, only to slip again and hit his face on a nearby table. Hearing Brian's account, I muttered to myself, "Talk about adding insult to injury." As Mr. Ingram sniffled, tears streaming down his face, I spoke up. "Crying won't help you now. You created this mess, and as for your injuries, you brought those on yourself, whether from shame or exhaustion. Mr. Ingram sat slumped, muttering incoherently. Then suddenly, he started pulling at his hair and shouted, "Why is it always like this? No matter how hard I try, nothing ever goes right. I was given this position by my grandfather as his only grandson, but now, damn it all." He seemed lost in frustration, and everyone around him was at a loss for words. I decided to be direct with him. "Didn't I tell you? Crying won't solve anything." Startled by the volume of my voice, Mr. Ingram flinched, his shoulders jerking as he turned to face me with tearful eyes. "You're only 30. To the world, that's still young and inexperienced. Your grandfather likely hoped you'd carry on his legacy, but somewhere along the way, you lost your direction. Now, you've wandered so far that you can't find your way back. While nurturing young talent is vital, it's equally important to respect those who've laid the groundwork. Isn't that right?" Mr. Ingram nodded weakly, then broke down, sobbing openly. "What do we do now?" Brian asked, still visibly exasperated. I let out a small sigh and said to Mr. Ingram, "You still have room to grow. If you're going to turn back, now is the time. If you push any further, you'll lose everyone's support. But if you show the right attitude, I'll restore the data from the backup." At this, Mr. Ingram slowly stood and bowed deeply to me. "Yes, you're absolutely right. It seems I took a wrong path somewhere. I sensed it, but got caught up in having everyone listen to me. I'm truly sorry." Accepting his apology, I shrugged, sat down at my computer, and restored the data. "I'll be expecting great things from you, Mr. Ingram." He didn't respond to my words. Instead, he stood there trembling, his head bowed low. After that, as planned, I made my rounds to say my goodbyes and left the company I had dedicated so many years to. The female employees gifted me a large bouquet and several cards filled with personal messages, secretly written and passed around. I hadn't expected such warm messages from people outside of the systems department. Mr. Ingram once mentioned making this a youth-centered company, and I don't necessarily disagree with that idea. But then Brian continued, "It's undeniable that our predecessors laid the foundation here. Without them, we wouldn't have a place to work today. There's tension now between the younger generation and the older employees, but I think it's essential to break down that barrier. If we respect one another, we can avoid unnecessary conflict." It was a reasonable point. Of course, we, the older generation, must update our mindsets and ways of working to understand younger generations better. At the same time, it's crucial for younger employees to respect those who built the world they're part of and not push only for their own agenda. Hostility leads nowhere. Having experienced that in my youth, I tried to teach the young ones proper manners and perspectives in the workplace, all while respecting their views. Naturally, as a senior employee, I sometimes took on the role of the bad guy. But by doing so, I hope to create an environment where future generations could work comfortably and develop their own critical thinking skills. I believe that's what it truly means to be seasoned by society. Thank you for everything." I bent low in a deep bow. Though I may have taught my younger colleagues about work and manners, they also taught me many valuable lessons. "Lauren, thank you for your insightful advice on handling my teenage daughter. Kevin, thanks for always gathering and sharing the latest systems info with everyone. Nora, thank you for taking on the small tasks, even when I didn't ask. Calling each person by name and expressing my gratitude, I could see their eyes glistening with emotion. Then I called that one name, Brian. "Yes," he responded, voice cracking in nervousness, something I wasn't used to from him. Seeing his reaction, I couldn't help but laugh. "Thank you for introducing me to good drinks." "Yes, wait, drinks. That's it. Haha, it's a compliment. Plus, I appreciate you always joining this old man for a drink whenever I asked. I'm also grateful to your wife for her understanding. To me, you were more than just a colleague." With that, his face turned bright red. "Hey now, Don't go blushing from an old man's words, I joked, filling the office with warm laughter. Leaving with the bouquet and farewells, I walked out of the building and noticed Mr. Ingram standing out front. Beside him was an elderly man in a wheelchair. Mr. Underwood. There was no mistaking him. It was Mr. Underwood, who had stepped down due to declining health and cognitive ability, keeping him from any non-family interactions until now. I just got a call from the hospital, Mr. Ingram explained. My grandfather insisted on going out today. The nurse said he kept saying, "Today's important. The only special thing today is your last day, Scott." So I asked him, and he told me to hurry and bring him here. As Mr. Ingram finished speaking, Mr. Underwood motioned for me to come closer. His voice was faint, trembling, and raspy, barely audible, yet somehow I understood what he meant. "Mr. Underwood, I'm the one who's grateful. Thank you for remembering my birthday." Hearing that, he gave me a joyful smile. A few days later, I received the news that Mr. Underwood had passed. However, I didn't feel much sadness at the funeral. His face appeared peaceful, almost as if he were smiling. "Thank you for not abandoning me, even after all I've put you through. I promise to cherish the company my grandfather built. Once more, thanks to your influence, none of the employees have left. Truly, thank you so much." As Mr. Ingram bowed deeply, I placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Knowing you changed gives me reassurance. I was beginning to wonder how I could help your team if you continued down that path. But now that worry has turned out to be founded in the best way possible. I look forward to seeing what you'll achieve." Hearing my words, Mr. Ingram looked back at me with a refreshed expression. He replied that he would strive to become a president as remarkable as his grandfather.